Hi everyone, it's Matthew Donovan here. Just wanted to put together some videos. I'm a little behind. I haven't done the February update nor the March update just because I've been so busy with a lot of important and incredibly amazing things happening, and I'll get to those updates shortly. But here I have for you the February and the March updates. So let's jump right in with February. Always first on the list is languages. And the goal here was intensive Spanish until March, and then picking up after that with Italian and Hebrew and Polish. Spanish was the focus because I'm going to a case competition, or I went to a case competition, I guess now, it was in the past, in Spain, and Spanish would be a big asset for that. So in the month of February, there was a lot of preparation leading up to that. I left midway through March, so February was really the last full month I had to do updates. I was talking to a gentleman down in Mexico City for about an hour and a half per week is what I had booked with him. So that was great. It was good experience. One thing I potentially would have liked to do differently is maybe trying to integrate someone from Spain, given that I'm going, given that Spain was my destination. But Mexico City, it's still Spanish, still a lot of good practice. And as I think I've said, the way I typically work in these sessions is I do probably 80 or 90% of the talking. I'm able to get that audio input. I'm able to get that text input when I'm reading on link or listening to a YouTube video or that type of thing. What I don't get is practice speaking, putting sentences together, and making sure I'm understandable. So that's what I use these lessons for. So from that point of view, it doesn't really matter. The only minor thing is just being able to pick up slang or some slight nuances on how they say things in different countries. But it was great in February to be able to work on my Spanish, made incredible progress. And also one other thing is, yes, I was speaking to a gentleman in Mexico City, and I paid for his time over a website called italki. But one thing that I was able to do, I wasn't really expecting, but I did seize the opportunity as it came up, was I'm a member of the social committee here where I live, and one of the members of the social committee is from Colombia. I also have my cousin is newly married to a woman from Colombia, and the goal at one point was to talk with her ahead of my trip as well and do some Spanish practice. Now, unfortunately, that didn't work out just in terms of the timing. The family wasn't able to get together, the extended family. But I was able to, at one of our social committee meetings, I did spend about 10 or 15 minutes talking in Spanish to the one member who is from Colombia. And again, that wasn't really something I was expecting. I sort of showed up. She was there, and I said to myself, you know what, let's do a little bit of talking in Spanish. And it just, it carried on. It was maybe a 10-minute conversation, and we were able to talk about that. And about, a month before I'd left, or I was planning on leaving for the trip, it was definitely great to get some more practice in unscripted conversation with obviously someone who knows that I'm not fluent, so I'm sure the vocabulary was tailored a little bit to that extent, but definitely great practice and always a great experience to be able to talk Spanish, especially when it's not something you're necessarily planning on. But that was it. That was great in terms of February leading up to Spain, and I'll have more updates in the next video of how I was actually able to use the language when I was in Spain. That was just phenomenal and fantastic. It's really the first time I've actually been able to use these languages that I've been learning in a country where it's spoken. So that was, again, just a fantastic experience, but I'll get to that in the next video. The next thing on the list is reading. The goal is 6 books per year. I'm exactly where I was in January. I've carried that through to February and March, which is not reading a single book. I think I talked about this last year. It really is a matter of priorities. So yes, I've got a lot of time, but it's really a matter of saying, okay, what am I wanting to do first, and then what do I have time for to do next, and so on and so forth. And practicing for the competition in Spain is definitely very high, or it was very high during the month of February on the list, and so was practicing Spanish. So as a result, reading further down the list. Nothing happened with reading, so I'll quickly jump to the next one, which is exercise, and exercise is in a very similar position. I am hoping to get more active in this, but during the month of February, there was no real attempt made at exercising. I am on it's finished now, but I was on an inner tube water polo team at Laurier. This is the same group of people that I was on a team with last year, and we won last year. It's a great experience. It's actually very active of a sport, so you might not think it, but when you're in the water, both your arms and your legs are getting an incredible workout, and it's a different group of muscles normally than what's typically used. So I always end after an hour quite tired. Obviously, it's not where I want to be in terms of exercise, but it's definitely something that I do, or I was doing pretty well every week, every Sunday night in February. So I will take that. I will take the small wins where I can, but other than that, not a lot of exercise happened in February either. Now, co-op is also where things are really valuable for me and where I've been able to get a lot of experience and make a lot of progress on my resolutions. So the goal as it's written is to continue learning and to be valuable to Sun Life Financial. And January was a slow month. It was a slow start just in terms of onboarding and training and getting into a position where I'm able to show the company what types of skills I have, what I'm able to do, and where my talents are. And February, I think, was really where that started to play out. I was able to be given some actual meaningful work and start working on some big projects and also some smaller projects. But the one key thing that I really enjoyed during the month of February at Sun Life was actually being brought on to an actual project that is ongoing within the company. A lot of the things I'm working on are definitely projects, but maybe not in the official sense, where there's a whole scope and there's business partners and we have all of the different members of the project. Typically, I'm on there just working on tasks as they come up, not necessarily projects. But there was one project that required a lot of work in Excel, basically a lot of analysis to figure out. We had a list of 150,000 fields basically, and they were all fields within tables on various systems, and we needed to figure out if those names basically of the columns within the tables on the systems contained high risk data. So really what we were doing was looking at, okay, does it contain potentially this word or that word or this word or any combination of those words? So looking to see if SIN for SIN number or SSN for Social Security number, looking to see if those words are contained within the bigger words, and we had a list of about 100 that we were checking for. So working within Excel to figure out, okay, how are we doing that? But we also needed to get rid of false positives. So for example, ACC or ACT we were using to flag for account, but ACT also is in the word contract. So in addition to these 100 words that we needed to check if they were in the word, we needed to make sure there weren't false positive words. So it was a big project, a lot of manipulation in Excel and lots of formulas that needed to be put together. Not necessarily incredibly complicated work, but definitely the logic behind the scenes needed to be there. But this was a project where I was basically brought on because someone who's currently working on the project was thinking, there's a lot of Excel work on here. I don't know if I'm the best person necessarily to be doing this. Do we have someone else? And names were tossed around, and my name came up, and someone said, Matthew's good with Excel. Why don't we give this to him and see if he can work on it? So I was brought onto this project, and that's really something I was doing for a bit of time in February, and it carried over into March. But working meaningful work on actual projects, definitely a taste of what it's like, and I think that really is because I'm showing that I can be valuable to Sun Life, both in terms of the skills that I bring, but also in terms of the way I complete the work. And that's something I have been striving for, is always complete the job. That's something that my grandfather used to say, was if a job is worth doing, it's worth doing well. And I fully agree. I'm at Sun Life for 37.5 hours per week. So while I'm there, that's the minimum I'm there. I'm typically there more. But while I'm there for at least those 37.5 hours each week, let's do the job well. If I'm given a task, I'm going to do it to the best of my abilities. And I think that's something that's proven valuable so far, and I'm sure it will continue to prove valuable, not just in Sun Life, but in everything else I continue to do. The final item on the list is staying involved. So I had a couple of things listed on my website on the resolutions list here. Prioritize and focus involvements as a business TA, on the JDC team, on the emergency response team, and also over the summer in MLSB. So I have a couple other things that I want to add to this, and maybe I'll refine. One of the other things I do is I'm the treasurer on the board of directors for the Waterloo North Condominium Corporation 37, which is where I live. And every month we have our board meetings, so it really is a matter of, the week before those meetings, making sure I'm prepared, reading through the documents, understanding what's changed, what's the differences, making sure I'm prepared to go into those meetings, just doing my duty as a board member. So that is a smaller activity that I'm doing, but it's definitely close to home, both figuratively and literally. So that is something I'll probably add to this, but other than that, the main activities this term are TAing for, again, Business 111, and also acting on the emergency response team. So in February, the university was closed for 2 weeks for Reading Week, but other than that, I'm still trying to work around my departure, or I was working around my departure to Spain, and because I couldn't be available for 2 weeks there, working extra during the month of February. So it was definitely a busy time in terms of the emergency response team shifting there and planning for the future. The hiring was open for the next year, the 2018 to 2019 year, so it was a matter of figuring out, do I want to apply again for a position on the team? What position do I want to apply for? And really completing that. But the emergency response team was definitely the smaller of the two involvement activities when it comes to that, and TAing. I have my labs every week. Those are going well. Again, because the university was closed, I didn't have labs the 1 week, which is always a nice break. I was still at work because co-op, there's no reading week in the real world, but I had a nice break the Monday evening from teaching my lab, so that was always nice. And the final thing, which is not explicitly listed on the website, but a subset almost of being on the JDC team, is the Spain competition. So the Spain competition, February was a lot of time spent practicing for that, leading up to that. Myself and the 3 other people that were on the team, we were meeting every weekend, putting in typically 5 to 8 hour resolution times, and an extra hour for our presentation, and an extra half an hour after that for feedback. So it was typically, I would say, on average 8 to 12 hours, probably on a given day, every weekend, and we put that in, except for one weekend in February where we actually practiced it. We simulated a 24-hour case. So that was a case that we were given. 24 hours later, we were presenting it. So that was a long night. Not a lot of sleep was had that night, but it's definitely a great experience and a great simulation for what we would be experiencing the following month in March. So that has been and continued to be a big time sink, but definitely well worth it, given that I would be heading off for a week to Spain to compete there and represent Laurier. So February was a lot going on, primarily Sun Life when I was during the day at work. In the evenings during the week, it was TAing for business and some practice for the Spain team, and then the weekends were typically spent working on preparation and practice for Spain. But anyways, that's how February was spent. It's a little awkward because I'm a month delayed, a month and a bit delayed on this, so I'm speaking about February when March has already happened. But that's the update for February. I'll be back in just a moment with the update for March. But other than that, as always, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.